A colossal object is entering our atmosphere, and it is not an asteroid that NASA anticipated. For several months, telescopes monitored 3I/Atlas as merely another interstellar visitor. Yet now, as it nears Earth, new observations reveal it is not what researchers initially assumed. It is larger, faster, and exhibiting behavior that contradicts every orbital prediction. Atlas isn't 2 kilometers wide. It measures 47 kilometers across. We weren't observing a minor asteroid. We've been tracking something the size of a small moon. Moreover, it has been slowing down over the past 6 weeks, which indicates it is not merely passing through the solar system. It intends to remain. Pay attention now, because what I am about to disclose about Atlas's actual dimensions, internal composition, and current activity as it approaches Earth will radically alter everything you believed about this object. The initial error wasn't trivial, it was intentional and methodical. Atlas seems to have been constructed to appear smaller than it truly is until it came close enough that the reality could no longer be obscured. Now that we know its true size, we are beginning to comprehend the magnitude of what we are confronting. This is not a natural interstellar rock. It is an engineered object. And it is nearly here. Let me explain how the scientific community misjudged an object of this scale by such an extraordinary margin. When Atlas was first detected, it remained beyond Neptune's orbit. At that distance, we rely on brightness measurements and spectral analysis to approximate size. The calculation is simple. Assess the reflected light, infer its composition, and estimate dimensions. For months, Atlas seemed to reflect light consistent with a dark, rocky surface approximately 2 kilometers in diameter. Every measurement corroborated this. Every calculation matched. The data seemed consistent. However, no one realized that Atlas was not reflecting light naturally. It was controlling its luminosity. 3 days ago, when NASA's Deep Space Imaging Array finally achieved resolution sufficient for detailed surface mapping, they observed something extraordinary. Atlas's surface was not uniformly dark. It exhibited patterns, geometric patterns. Hexagonal formations spanned the entire surface like scales. These structures actively absorbed incoming light, not merely reflecting poorly, but capturing and suppressing it, akin to stealth coating on military aircraft, yet across a 47 kilometers expanse. A researcher analyzing the images described the moment of recognition. We examined the first high-resolution scan, expecting craters and irregular rock formations. Instead, we found a perfectly engineered surface, with symmetrical formations repeated across the entire visible area. It was like photographing a mountain and discovering it was actually a building designed to look like a mountain from afar. The hexagonal formations are not natural geological features. They are manufactured, precisely engineered to a tolerance implying technology far beyond current human capability. Each hexagon measures roughly 400 meters across. Over 11,000 of these formations cover the entire surface of Atlas, all arranged in patterns suggesting deliberate design, possibly akin to solar panels, sensor grids, or unknown technological arrays. When NASA recalculated Atlas's real size using physical surface mapping rather than brightness alone, the results were staggering. Mass estimates rose by a factor of 24. Internal volume calculations indicated Atlas could house structures comparable to cities. We weren't mistaken due to poor calculations. The error arose because Atlas was designed to deceive our measurements until it approached close enough that the deception failed. Here is what makes this deeply alarming. Atlas has been decelerating. Objects in space do not decelerate naturally. There is no friction or atmospheric drag. A natural object entering the solar system at high speed maintains its velocity unless acted upon by an external force. Typically, objects either continue at constant speed, pass through, or are captured by solar gravity into an elliptical orbit. Atlas is doing neither. 6 weeks ago, Atlas traveled at 87 kilometers per second relative to the Sun, a typical interstellar speed. Then it began slowing down not due to gravity, but through active propulsion. NASA observed the deceleration through subtle changes in Atlas's spectral signature. The rear-facing surface emitted thermal radiation consistent with energy generation from within, not reflected sunlight. Atlas is operating engines, braking thrusters, reducing its speed from interstellar velocity to solar system orbital velocities. Current speed, 31 kilometers per second and decreasing. At the present deceleration rate, Atlas will reach zero relative velocity with respect to Earth in approximately 14 days. To clarify, an object the size of a small moon, equipped with a manufactured surface and internal systems capable of generating the thrust needed to decelerate 47 kilometers of mass, will come to a complete stop relative to Earth in 2 weeks. But deceleration isn't the most alarming aspect. The trajectory is. Atlas is not moving toward the Sun, nor entering a stable orbit around Jupiter, or any other destination consistent with natural orbital mechanics. 3 weeks ago, Atlas adjusted its course, another propulsion burn, another trajectory correction. It is now headed directly toward Earth's orbital path. Its current deceleration will bring it to a halt approximately 384,000 kilometers from Earth's surface. That is the distance to the Moon. Atlas intends to occupy the same orbital zone as our Moon, not passing Earth, not entering solar orbit, but halting precisely at the location of our only natural satellite. Once NASA determined Atlas's true scale, they immediately conducted deep structure analysis using ground-penetrating radar and gravitational assessment. What they discovered inside makes the surface formations seem mundane in comparison. Atlas is not solid. It is hollow, or more accurately, compartmentalized. Radar scans reveal a sophisticated internal framework with immense empty volumes divided by structural supports. These are not natural voids like those in a porous asteroid, they are chambers, purposefully constructed spaces with geometric boundaries. The largest internal chamber measures roughly 12 kilometers across and extends nearly 8 kilometers deep, large enough to contain Manhattan Island. And it is not alone. Radar has identified at least 17 major internal chambers, along with hundreds of smaller compartments. Structural supports between chambers exhibit engineering features, load-bearing architecture, symmetrical layout, distribution patterns suggesting intentional design to withstand stress and maintain integrity during acceleration or maneuvers. Gravitational measurements confirm the internal layout. Atlas's total mass is approximately 8.7 trillion kilograms, immense, yet far less than a solid rock of equivalent dimensions would weigh. Density estimates indicate Atlas is roughly 40% empty space by volume. But the most unsettling detail: some internal chambers display thermal anomalies, localized heat. Not uniform solar heating, but concentrated energy sources within specific areas. Temperature patterns indicate active systems, energy production, possibly life support functions. Something within Atlas is producing heat in ways inconsistent with natural processes. Gravitational measurements confirm the internal layout. Atlas's total mass is approximately 8.7 trillion kilograms, immense, yet far less than a solid rock of equivalent dimensions would weigh. Density estimates indicate Atlas is roughly 40% empty space by volume. But the most unsettling detail: some internal chambers display thermal anomalies, localized heat. Not uniform solar heating, but concentrated energy sources within specific areas. Temperature patterns indicate active systems, energy production, possibly life support functions. Something within Atlas is producing heat in ways inconsistent with natural processes. NASA also detected electromagnetic emissions from within the object. Not conventional communications, these are internal signals. Short-range transmissions between different compartments of Atlas's interior. It resembles an internal network of a building. Rooms communicating, systems coordinating, a functioning infrastructure operating as the object approaches Earth. One analysis suggested these electromagnetic patterns resemble automated systems performing status checks and operational coordination, akin to a large facility powering up, running diagnostics, preparing for arrival at a destination. 5 days ago, every major radio telescope on Earth detected the same phenomenon simultaneously. Atlas's energy output surged by 340%. This wasn't gradual. This wasn't a slow increase. In under 2 hours, Atlas escalated from generating power levels comparable to a large research facility to producing energy equivalent to an entire metropolitan region. The energy signature consists of electromagnetic radiation across multiple bands, heat dissipation indicative of massive internal power systems, And another element, a specific frequency pattern that experts recognize but cannot explain in this context. Atlas is producing potent magnetic fields, fluctuating yet organized, suggesting controlled manipulation of electromagnetic forces. The magnetic intensity is strong enough to be measurable from orbit, implying that within Atlas, these fields are extraordinarily powerful. Why create magnetic fields of this magnitude? Only a few applications demand that level of energy. Experimental fusion reactors, particle accelerators, or electromagnetic-based propulsion systems still in early development stages. Whatever Atlas is activating, it requires energy and magnetic control far beyond human technology. The energy spike coincides with increased activity in Atlas's internal chambers. Thermal readings from these hollow spaces intensified immediately after the power surge. More systems are activating, more processes initiating, more preparation. NASA analysts tried to estimate what could demand this much power. The numbers are astonishing. Atlas is now generating roughly 15 gigawatts of continuous energy, comparable to 15 large nuclear power plants operating at full capacity. The output continues to climb gradually, every 6 hours. Readings rise another 2 to 3%. Extrapolated forward, Atlas could reach roughly 25 gigawatts by lunar distance. What requires 25 gigawatts? Enough to power a city of 5 million people, the most advanced particle physics experiments ever conceived, generate magnetic fields capable of deflecting solar wind across thousands of kilometers, or energize defense systems, shields, propulsion arrays, and technologies designed for planetary-scale operations rather than human-scale tasks. No one knows precisely what Atlas is activating. Analysts agree, you don't generate 25 gigawatts for observation, you do it for action. 2 days ago, NASA detected a development that triggered an emergency classified briefing with global leaders. Atlas is not alone. Deep space tracking revealed 6 smaller objects moving in formation with Atlas. They are much smaller, roughly 200 to 500 meters in diameter, but exhibit similar traits. Controlled trajectories, deceleration burns, manufactured surfaces. These objects were invisible in earlier observations, hidden behind Atlas's radar shadow, only emerging after Atlas executed a recent maneuver, adjusting their paths to maintain formation. These aren't debris or natural satellites. They maintain precise positions relative to Atlas with active maneuvering, flying like escort vessels around a much larger craft. 3 days ago, they began dispersing slowly, spreading from a tight formation into a broader pattern. Projections indicate that by the time Atlas reaches lunar distance, the 6 objects will form a geometric network around Earth, roughly one every 60 degrees along the equatorial plane. It resembles a satellite network deploying for optimal coverage, yet these satellites are 200 to 500 meters wide and arrived from interstellar space. Spectroscopic analysis shows their surfaces resemble Atlas. Dark, highly engineered, geometrically structured to minimize radar reflection, with stealth features akin to scaled-up military drones. All 6 exhibit the same energy patterns Atlas showed before its major power surge: thermal emissions, electromagnetic activity, systems powering up. They are synchronizing their readiness with Atlas's timeline. One analyst calculated that fully deployed, these objects would have direct line-of-sight coverage of about 94% of Earth at any moment. Anywhere on the planet, at least 2 of these objects could observe or scan your location. This isn't exploration, it's surveillance or targeting architecture. As Atlas approaches, its communications have increased exponentially. Once occasional transmissions are now nearly continuous, sending massive data packets into deep space every few hours, and shorter transmissions coordinating with its 6 escorts. A new development: high-frequency bursts aimed at Earth itself. These are not attempts at communication, wrong frequency, wrong modulation, but appear to be active scanning, bouncing signals off the planet to map it. Resolution has improved daily, now capable of distinguishing features as small as 30 meters from current distance, enough to identify buildings, infrastructure, military sites, population centers, and major transportation networks. These transmissions aren't one-way. Atlas receives responses. Deep space signals sent out are answered, indicating a dialogue with an entity far beyond our solar system. The protocol shows structure consistent with command and control networks. Atlas reports, receives instructions, confirms, and executes new actions based on orders. We are not witnessing a single interstellar object, but a coordinated operation. Atlas is a local asset executing instructions from a distant authority. Most recent signals included what NASA's AI flagged as arrival confirmation. Atlas reporting its position and readiness. 36 hours ago, something entirely unexpected occurred. NASA is in crisis mode. Earth's moon is responding. Apollo era seismometers, which have monitored moonquakes for over 50 years, detected unusual vibrations. Not impact quakes, not thermal stress, but organized rhythmic pulses originating deep below the surface. The vibrations began exactly 2 hours after Atlas completed its latest course correction. The timing is not coincidental. Even stranger, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter detected localized heating anomalies on the moon's far side. 3 sites, forming a perfect equilateral triangle, each roughly 400 kilometers apart, showed thermal increases not explained by solar radiation. Ground-penetrating radar identified massive cavities, about 2 kilometers across, 5 kilometers beneath the surface, showing electromagnetic activity. Systems powering up. One researcher voiced the unthinkable. What if the moon is not entirely natural? Dormant infrastructure may be activating in response to Atlas. The activation timing is precise. Atlas adjusts course. Within 2 hours, lunar systems begin powering up. Geological surveys never detected these structures, possibly due to depth, material composition, or deliberate concealment. The timing is too exact to be chance. Atlas's course adjustment and subsequent lunar response suggest a programmed interaction. This may not be first contact in the human sense, but the culmination of a plan executed over time spans exceeding recorded history. Atlas traversed light years to reach Earth, with lunar systems lying dormant until its arrival. Different agencies are scrambling. Defense systems, first contact protocols, survival contingencies. Governments are planning continuity measures in case Atlas's intentions conflict with human survival. Yet Atlas's technological capabilities are so advanced that preparation may be futile. An interstellar craft 47 kilometers wide, with escort vessels and dormant lunar infrastructure, leaves humanity at a severe disadvantage. The pressing question remains: why Earth? Why position systems inside the moon? Why arrive with deception and stealth until it is nearly too late to detect? In 14 days, we may begin to learn the answers, whether humanity is prepared or not.